Welcome to Am I the A-hole, where OP's father made an unfair decision by giving all of their property to him, leaving his brother with just one factory, despite the fact that OP's brother dedicated his entire life to managing his father's business. OP is already well off and doesn't need any property from his parents, so he wants to give all the property to his brother, but OP's wife is against this. It is a very interesting story. Let's dive into it. I, 36-year-old male, come from Mississippi and grew up there. I always hated living in my hometown because of poor infrastructure and lack of glamour. I always wanted to live in a big, developed city. So, when I turned 18, I moved to California. My parents were against this decision, and they wanted me to work for our family's garment factories, but I wanted to work in IT. Finally, they had to agree with me, and I moved to California. After getting my degree, I started working for an IT company. After saving enough and getting an experience of 7 years, I launched my own company, and now I have a fairly large and successful business. My average revenue is much more than the combined income of all of our father's garment factories. I have only one brother, Jack, 38 years old. He has been managing the family's factories and has always been with our father. However, he has never married and has no plans to do so in the future. He has had a girlfriend for the last 10 years, but he also does not want to have any children. Also, he is not ambitious like me, but he is a nice guy and has always been good to me. 3 years ago, my mother passed away, and just 20 days later, my father also passed away in a car accident. This left my brother Jack and me as the beneficiaries of my father's factories. I didn't need anything from my parents because they had helped me during my education, and they also contributed a lot to setting up my company. I was grateful for all this. But to my surprise, as my brother and I sat down with the attorney to discuss our father's will, we discovered that I was left with 2 garment factories, and my brother was left with only 1 factory and no other property. The only reason I can fathom behind this decision is that unlike Jack, I have 2 children. Though the split of inheritance was in my favor, it was ridiculous. Since, unlike me, my brother actually lived with my father and helped him manage all the factories. If I think as an unbiased judge, I would say 2 factories should have gone to my brother, and I should be given none or 1. I saw that my brother was also shaken up by the decision, so I reassured him that I found it absurd as well, and I don't mind forfeiting the land to him. My brother said I didn't have to do that, but I insisted. After some back and forth on the topic, we mutually agreed to settle this between ourselves at a later date, when everything would be transferred under our names as our parents intended. When I informed my wife, Amelia, 35-year-old female, of my decision to give up my inheritance, she became furious. She argued that my decision was impulsive and short-sighted, as the garment factories are worth a fortune, and I was giving them away without a second thought. I told my wife that even though the factories are worth a fortune, my father's decision was unfair, and that my brother deserves them. My wife said that it didn't matter if my brother deserves them or not. They are legally mine, so I should not give them to my brother, and that I should think of our children who might need them in the future. When she continuously insisted, I said, then I will keep 1 factory and transfer the other to my brother. However, my wife is adamant that I should keep both factories and should not give anything to my brother. My wife is not speaking to me now until I reconsider my decision. I need to hear some unbiased opinions to see if I'm in the wrong here. OP is not an AH, so I will give him 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. If he were not financially well off, I would give him 2 out of 5 for not thinking of his wife and children. He is well off and doesn't need money, so he can give it to the person who is deserving and is in need of it. As of his wife, I would give her 1 out of 5 on AH scale because she is somehow justified here. Who does not love money, right? But the way she handled it is manipulative, hence the score of 1 out of 5. Now, the real culprit, OP's father, I will give him 3 out of 5 because he was very petty in distributing inheritance. If your son gives his entire life to build your empire, you cannot rob him of inheritance just because of 1 life decision. He should have been fair and at least split the inheritance in half. Let's now move on to another Am I the A-hole post where OP has taken in his drug-addicted son from his ex-wife, on the condition that he would pay rent and contribute to household expenses. OP is working for the welfare of his son and helping him save for the future. OP's son has saved around $8,000 in the last 4 months and has been clean for the same amount of time. However, OP's ex-wife is saying OP is a jerk for charging his son to live in his home, and she is defaming OP on social media. let's dive into the story to see what OP and his son do next. I, 43-year-old male, was married to my first wife Olivia for 7 years, and we have a son, Henry, now a 24-year-old male, together. We got separated when I caught her cheating on me. At that time, our son Henry was 13 years old, and the court awarded custody to me because my ex-wife had a history of drug addiction. After my divorce from my first wife, I remarried, and I now have 3 children from my second marriage, 4M, 7M, 11F. My second wife is a stay-at-home mom, and I am the sole breadwinner for my family. Our son Henry always saw me as a villain because his mom had been brainwashing him against me. He was not happy with the custody arrangement and wanted to live with his mom, who was not willing to take him in. After being disappointed by his mother, he ran away from home multiple times, but I always brought him back. I covered all of his expenses, but my ex-wife didn't contribute financially. When he turned 18, he moved out to live with a friend. I offered to pay for his college and help him start his independent life, but he declined, stating that he wanted to make his own way. With no other choice, I respected his decision, and he moved out to live with his friend. After leaving, he stopped contacting me, and I was the one who reached out to offer my help. After enduring a year of his distant behavior, I made the decision to stop contacting him and maintain no further relationship with him. Deep in my heart, I was expecting him to contact me, but he never did. After 6 years, 5 months ago, my son Henry contacted me and asked me for a meeting. I didn't want to meet him, but after his continuous requests, I agreed. When I met him, he told me that he could not continue his studies after moving out because he was unable to find a stable job and had fallen into drug addiction. He told me that he was trying to get rid of his drug addiction, and for all this, he needed my help. Though I had decided not to have any relationship with my son, I had to agree to take him in because I did not want to leave my son alone in that difficult time. However, I made it clear to him that he would have to pay rent and contribute to other household expenses because it was not possible for me to bear all the expenses as I have my own family, and my children from my second wife are in school. My son had no problem with it, and he moved in with me on this arrangement. However, when my ex-wife learned about it, she started criticizing me, saying that I was charging our own son, and for this, I was an a-hole. I told my ex that though I was charging our son, at least I was helping him get rid of drugs, and I am doing a lot for the welfare of our son, and she was just barking from outside. My son has been clean for the last 4 months and is working a job from which he earns quite well. Despite paying the rent and household expenses, he has saved around $8,000 USD, which he could not save in the 6 years when he was not living with me. My ex-wife has been continuously criticizing me on social media and telling all of our relatives that I am a jerk for charging rent to our son. She has posted 5 posts with my pictures and derogatory captions to tell people that I was charging rent to our son. Many people on social media are supporting her. When I discussed it with my son, he said that he had no problem with the rent and his contribution to household expenses. He told me that he was grateful for my help because I was working for his welfare and that his mom was doing wrong and that we should take action against her. Yesterday, my nephew Jack, who is studying law, told me that I should upload a video in which my son and I clarify the arrangement between us and that we should also file a defamation case against my ex-wife. When I discussed this with my son, he told me that he was ready to record a video to clear my name and that he would support me in the defamation case. I have always been a calm person and prefer to avoid confrontation with others. Therefore, before making any decisions, I would like to hear the opinions of you Redditors. I have 2 questions. Am I the jerk for charging my son rent? Secondly, should I take any legal steps against my ex-wife? OP is not the AH, and I would give him 0 out of 5 on the AH scale because OP's son can afford rent and contribute to household expenses. If he couldn't afford it, I would give him 3 out of 5. As for OP's wife, she is a big AH. I would give her 3.5 out of 5 because she didn't support her son when he needed her the most, and now instead of supporting her son, she is criticizing the person who is supporting him. OP's wife is defaming him out of spite and jealousy. I recommend OP's wife to get a life and be a better person. Petty people can never be satisfied with their life. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.